Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mangs, and today I welcome you guys to another Fire Emblem character spotlight. This one wasn't on the schedule originally, but after she got added to Heroes, I sorta just had to. I mean, I think my reaction to the banner speaks for itself. Well, who else are we gonna... Oh my god! I also saw a lot of comments on the Heroes subreddit from people wondering just who this gorgeous lady was, so I figured it was time to make this to educate people a little bit more about my favorite game in the series, Binding Blade. I swear guys, the fact that she's a blonde, gorgeous, and busty sniper has nothing to do with it. Anyway, let's take a look at the Guardian of the Desert, Igrene.
I am Igrene, Guardian of Nabata Desert.
Located deep in the Nabata Desert in southern Alib lies Arcadia, a mystical village blanketed in obscuring sandstorms, concealing it from the sight of the outside world. Inside this village lives the few remaining dragons who survived the Scouring, a terrible event in which humans and dragons fought over dominion of the continents, which the dragons ultimately lost. The village of Arcadia is the only place in Alib where dragons coexist together with humans, and in this village, Igrene was born. Born the daughter of the legendary Hawkeye, Igrene grew up being trained from an early age to become Guardian of Nabata, a position that has been passed down for several generations. It consists mainly of protecting the desert against invaders. The Guardian must spend most of their time in solitude, wandering the endless desert, scouting for invaders and fighting them off if need be. Their most important duty is to ensure that no one who sees the village of Arcadia makes it out of the desert to inform the outside world of its existence. Growing up in Arcadia, Igrene had many friends. She spent a lot of time with the half-dragon Sophia, and also acted as sort of a mother figure to the divine dragon Fa. However, her father would often be away from the village for long periods of time, and she would often feel lonely. When Hawkeye was present in Arcadia, they would mostly train to prepare her for her role as a guardian. Eventually, Igrene would grow up to become the new guardian, though we never learn what happened to Hawkeye, if he perished or retired, as he is never seen or mentioned in the events of Binding Blade. One day when Igrene was out patrolling the desert, she came across an unconscious man lying in the sand. He was badly injured with multiple scars on his body, including a gruesome wound on his leg. Igrene carried him to a nearby hut and nursed him back to health. On his body, she found some strange documents as well as a seal. The man had amnesia and couldn't remember his pasts, but introduced himself as Gorlois. During the time in which Igrene took care of him, the two fell in love and got married in the village of Arcadia. They were very happy together, but slowly Gorlois' memory started returning, and Igrene started worrying that his old life would cause problems for them. One day, a pack of bandits attacked Arcadia, and Gorlois left to fend them off, but never returned. Igrene searched everywhere but couldn't find the bodies of either the bandits nor her husband, so she assumed that they had sunk into the quicksand. But in her heart, she believed that her husband was still alive out there somewhere. At some point, Igrene had a daughter. It is never revealed to us exactly if Gorlois was the father, but we can probably assume so, as she was married to him for many years. As a child, her daughter would sometimes sneak off with Sophia to visit Fa and play with her in her room. One day, however, Igrene tragically lost her child. It is not clear exactly what happened to her, but it was most likely either illness, bandits, or the dangerous desert that claimed her. In the events of Binding Blade, Igrene is in Arcadia when the forces of Burn invade, attempting to uncover the secrets the dragons are keeping there. As Roy and his liberation army shows up to halt the invasion, Igrene decides to join them to see Burn's war dragons with her own eyes. While Fa is explicitly forbidden to go with them by the village elder, she runs away from Arcadia to follow them anyway, and gets caught by Burn's soldiers in the process. Igrene helps guide Roy towards her castle to rescue Fa and then recover her Dragonstone. Alongside Fa, she continues to help Roy out in the war against Sephiel. However, after the events of Binding Blade, it is stated that after promising to return to Nabata to resume her role as the Guardian, she mysteriously vanishes and is never seen or heard from again. Igrene is a compassionate and empathetic woman. While her appearance may be a bit intimidating and her attitude a bit blunt, she cares deeply for those around her, particularly Fa, whom she treats much like her own daughter, being strict with her when it's needed, such as when Fa ignores Roy's orders on the battlefield, but also showing a lot of care for her, such as braiding her hair and looking after her. Igrene's supports with Saul starts pretty unexpectedly with the horny priests hitting on her, but evolves to a pretty deep discussion about faith. In this support, we learn that Igrene was once pretty religious, but not anymore. These days, she finds the idea of a god pretty unappealing, because in her mind, when people pray, they expect something in return, and Igrene prefers to have no expectations at all. This makes sense considering how much she has lost, both her husband and her daughter. For Igrene, it was most likely too painful to imagine a god taking so much away from her without a reason. However, Saul actually provides a very interesting perspective on religion, which shows he has a lot more wisdom than people may think. But since this is a spotlight centered on Igrene and not Saul, I'll save this one for later, though I definitely recommend you head over and watch it yourself sometime. It is pretty remarkable. Igrene's other supports aren't spectacularly noteworthy. With Sophia, she mostly discusses the outside world and ensures that she's okay. With Douglas, she asks him to promise her that Etruria won't attack Arcadia after the war. Both of them are pretty short, sweet, and not super interesting, but they convey Igrene's personality very well. She likes taking care of people and will go to any length to ensure the safety of those around her. Igrene's support with Astolfo is probably to this day my favorite support in Fire Emblem as a whole, and actually a big reason why I wanted to make the spotlight in the first place. In this support, it is revealed that Astolfo is actually Gorlois, even though he pretends otherwise, telling her to move on and even jokes around, offering to give her a kiss in place of her deceased husband, something which causes Igrene to slap him. We also learn why he mysteriously vanished from her life after they got married. In the support, we learn that Igrene did some research on Ostian spies and discovered that they are actually not allowed to keep family, lovers, or even friends, as they can become methods to threaten them for information should they ever be captured. As a result, Astolfo most likely left Arcadia when his memory started returning, fearing for Igrene and possibly their daughter's life. The bandits attacking Arcadia may even have been a lie, as Igrene never found their bodies, and it is quite strange that Astolfo wouldn't bring her with him to fend off an attack against the village, something that should normally be the Guardian's job. It is a bit strange that there are no signs of scars on Astolfo's legs when Igrene asks to see them, but we can probably chalk this up to advanced healing magic from Ostia's clerics. While the support ends tragically, with Astolfo showing great remorse over leaving his wife and telling her to forget all about him, there is a hint of happiness shown towards the end of the game. There are no paired endings in Binding Blade outside of Roy and his potential wives, but if we take a look at each of their endings individually, it is stated that both Igrene and Astolfo vanish from official records and are never seen or heard from again. This is strange as they both hold important positions, Astolfo, a high-ranking Ostian spy, and Igrene, Guardian of Nabata, and yet they still both vanish mysteriously. A strange coincidence. I know this may be wishful thinking, but personally I choose to believe that Igrene and Astolfo ran away together to live the rest of their lives in peace, somewhere far away where neither Ostia nor Nabata would find them. Maybe the Western Isles? Who knows? All I know is I just want them to be happy, because the support tears me up every time I watch it. There is a tragedy and a sadness to Igrene that is absolutely heartbreaking. She lost both her husband and her child in a very short span of time, and yet she did not give in to despair. Considering Hawkeye's words in Blazing Sword about the Guardian of Nabata having to grow accustomed to solitude, it is almost prophetic in a way that Igrene is forced to live a life of loneliness. She takes care of those around her, she ensures that everyone is safe and protected, and yet almost everyone she's ever loved is taken away from her. We can only hope that she gets that happy ending with Astolfo that I personally believe is canon, because goddammit, this woman deserves to be happy.
Perhaps in this place, I too can reunite with those I've lost.
Out of the 80 characters in Binding Blade, Igrene ranks as number 52 according to a Japanese website poll. In the prototype of Binding Blade, Igrene was meant to be an archer rather than a sniper. Igrene was originally supposed to have been a half-dragon, similar to Sophia, but this concept was scrapped in the beta version of Binding Blade. In the first Fire Emblem Heroes Choose Your Legends popularity poll, Igrene ranked as the 423rd most popular character with 322 votes. In the second poll, she ranked as the 447th most popular character with 296 votes, and in the third and final poll, she ranked at number 365 with 436 votes.
I don't have faith in much, but I do have faith in you.
Igrene will join your army at the start of chapter 15. She won't be available in the battle preps, but she will start out on the map as a blue unit once the chapter begins. She is a pre-promoted sniper with very decent bases. Her offensive spread is extremely good, with high strength, skill, and speed, and even her durability is impressive for a sniper. I suppose she really is the daughter of Hawkeye after all. Right off the bat, Igrene is extremely useful for dealing a lot of damage on player face. With her killer bow, she can pretty much delete any unit she goes up against without taking a counter, which is what you want a sniper to do. On normal mode, she basically doubles everything in her joining chapter and everything for a while to come. On hard mode, it's a little bit more dependent on the enemy's stat spreads. She can usually double most unpromoted enemies save the mercenaries and roughly half of the cavaliers and wyvern knights, but it isn't guaranteed. This isn't any fault of Igrene, but more due to the insanely strong enemies in Binding Blade's hard mode. There are very few units that reliably one-round KO enemies in that game, but Igrene is one of the units you have that can inflict a significant amount of damage at range. She may not have much of an enemy face to speak of, but at this point there should be plenty of other units in your army capable of fulfilling that role. Binding Blade is a game filled with dangerous flyers. If you go to Ilia, Igrene will have a field day sniping Pegasus and Falcon Knights out of the sky, and the powerful wyverns in chapter 21 will also be sorry they ever met her. While she doesn't have access to one range and is a liability on enemy face, Binding Blade is a game where having a strong player face unit is actually pretty helpful. Enemies are a lot tougher in this game, and you are actually reliant on good damage output to get through a lot of the chapters. And for this task, Igrene's offense is very welcome. In the few scenarios where she does have to take a few hits to the face, her above average defense and resistance combined with her excellent avoidance means she won't die easily. Unless you're me doing an Iron Man run, that is. What? Igrene is not without her flaws though. She comes with a B rank in bows, which means she'll be unable to use silver bows right off the bat, though many players will probably consider the killer bow just as strong a weapon, if not better. Being a Binding Blade pre-promote, her growth rates are also pretty low on average, though her strength and speed growths are among her best at 35%, which are the only two stats she really needs to perform. Igrene's list of supports is also a little short, and many of the units she supports with, like Douglas, Sophia, and Astolfo, aren't exactly player favorites, and even if they were, her Ice Affinity is commonly viewed as one of the worst affinities, granting mostly defensive bonuses. As a result of all this, Igrene struggles to stand out in Binding Blade's massive roster of playable units, though she shouldn't be completely ignored just because of this. She's still a strong pre-promoted unit with good bases that can help you out in a pinch. Deploy her on maps with lots of flyers and she probably won't let you down. Finishing off this section, I'd like to address something I often hear in discussions revolving around Igrene, and that is how she compares to Klein, another pre-promoted sniper in the game. An extremely common argument you hear regarding Igrene is that if you play on normal mode, she's better than Klein, but on hard mode, Klein is better since he gets those juicy hard mode bonuses. While those bonuses certainly help Klein out a lot, Igrene's bases are actually stronger in all areas save luck and resistance, even on hard mode. Klein does have the advantage of an earlier join time as well as a better bow rank, meaning he can use silver bows right away, and it's a lot easier to train into wielding the Murglice. But this shouldn't take anything away from Igrene's performance. She's still statistically superior to Klein in both modes, and requires absolutely no investment to get here, unlike Walton Doherty, who requires a bunch of babying and a 5,000 gold worth Orion's Bolt just to get to the same level. So don't get into the habit of comparing units just because they're the same class. God, I sound more and more like Mecha every day.
Well, agreed.
While Igrene's supports are incredibly short, I actually think she has some of the best ones in the game, and Binding Blade's ability to convey so much with so little is absolutely remarkable. It's certainly something the latter games could learn a thing or two about. While she may be a character that most people don't even remember even after multiple playthroughs of Binding Blade, she's definitely worth looking into. I wouldn't say she's remarkably complex, but her support with Astolfo is one of the few moments where I've actually shed tears while playing Fire Emblem, and that deserves credit. 4 out of 5 stars.
My duty is to repel invaders and drive them from the desert sands of Nabata.
Blonde, busty, and long-legged, Igrene is absolutely stunning. I know a lot of you guys will point out that the hero's artwork exaggerates her features to the extreme, and this is commonly something the game does, but if you actually look at Igrene's original Binding Blade art, she was always depicted that way. Her sideway pose kind of hides her curves a little bit, but if you take a closer look at the artwork, you'll see that she was always pretty freaking stacked and has legs and thighs for days. So I wouldn't say that Kuban did her a great injustice with his depiction of her. He just kind of put her into a more flattering light. And made her tunic a little tighter. But hey, no one's complaining.
Ah, I see you like to tease people. You should stop.
While Igrene's in-game portrait looks a little bit odd with how it's angled, I also think it shows off a rough, untamed sort of beauty, which is fitting considering she's from the Nabata Desert. A fun story I've heard regarding her little beauty mark that's located under her eye is that it actually was the result of a glitch while making the portrait, but the designers just decided to keep it in because it ended up looking good by accident. I'm not sure how valid this story is, could just be something someone made up. Lastly, Igrene's color scheme is fantastic. I really love how it displays her nomadic background, and her tan skin also shows the amount of hours she spent wandering the blazing hot desert. I don't think this comes as any surprise, but she gets a perfect 5 out of 5 star ranking for me. This girl is just really hot.
Agreed.
Igrene's low utility is probably the reason why she's so often overlooked. She's a pre-promoted sniper that comes after another pre-promoted sniper, and although she has better stats, she is easily overshadowed by Klein's earlier join time. In Chapter 15, you probably have most of your roster sorted out, and finding a slot to deploy Igrene can be tricky. I definitely think she has some pretty nice utility with her impressive damage output and flying effectiveness, but saying she's a super good character would be stretching the truth a lot. I therefore rate her a reluctant 2 out of 5 stars, though in my heart, this gorgeous blonde bombshell will always be a 10 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching this Fire Emblem character spotlight. If you enjoyed it, consider helping it out with a like, and let me know who you want to see me spotlight in the future by leaving a comment below. And if you want to help the channel out, I would really appreciate it if you became a member or supported me on Patreon, though that is completely optional. If you click the playlist in front of you, you can also check out the previous spotlights I've done. Until next time, my name is Mengs, and I thank you for watching.